my goodness. Emmanuel Lim has an opportunity of a lifetime here. But a tough task to ask for coming up. Fighting somebody like Desmond Nicholson, the rematch. Talking about a guy who started his professional career in 2012 with a record of 22 wins, 3 losses, 3 draws. Has more experience than Lester Martinez. But a fighter who had a draw with Desmond Nicholson back in 2016, the first fight. Fights 2 times in 2017. Gets knocked out in the 3rd round by Hugo Centeno Jr. Fights 1 time in 2018. Gets a victory. Comes back and fights 2 times in 2019. But ends up suffering another loss. And takes a break from 2019 to 2021. 2 years later. Almost 2 years. And suffers another loss. So what does he do? Take another 2 years off. And ends up returning in 2023. Fights 1 time. Fights a couple times in 2024. And has the rematch with Desmond Nicholson in his last fight in 2025. And has marched himself back into the WBC rankings, currently ranked number 14. Going up against Lester Martinez, the number 3 ranked super middleweight contender who just contended against Christian Buckley with a record of 19-0-1. Only had 1 draw. Just competed for the WBC Interim super middleweight title on the Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford undercard. I believe they were the 3rd fight. I think Fernando Vargas Jr. and Colin Walsh were the co-main event. That fight was an absolute barn burner. Lester Martinez wasn't able to get it done. We picked him to win that fight. But at the end of the day, we knew Christian Buckley was an absolute tank. A goddamn pit bull. Just, you're holding him by a leash, so you take off the leash, and he's just coming forward at you with everything he got. It was a good fight, but it ends up in a draw. And Christian Buckley got to keep his WBC Interim title. Wow, since then, we've seen Terence Crawford in that same goddamn card beat Canelo Alvarez, become undisputed super middleweight champion, retire from the sport of boxing. And the titles were up for grabs. The WBO, Hamza Shiraz, Diego Pacheco, we're still waiting for that. The IBF, Oslis Iglesias, has a fight now mandated against Pavel. Was supposed to fight Canelo Alvarez. He denied the fight. The WBA upgraded their interim champion in Armando Resendiz, who was coming off an absolute ridiculous win over Caleb Plant, where he was like a plus 900 underdog going in that fight. And the WBC, who ordered Hamza Shiraz versus Christian Buckley, decided just to elevate their interim champion because negotiations got stalled out, as Hamza Shiraz looks to be fighting Diego Pacheco. Now, since Christian Buckley is the new WBC super middleweight champion, the WBC has decided to officially announce this fight on ProBox TV in San Bernardino, California. Lester Martinez, the number 3 ranked WBC super middleweight contender, against Emmanuel Lim. Emmanuel Lim from Desmond Nicholson to Lester Martinez. As Lester Martinez looks to become Guatemala's first ever world champion. Absolutely breaking news, my people. Let me know what you guys think. Honestly, in my opinion, I think Emmanuel Lim has heart. You know, he comes forward. He has boxing skills. He has footwork. But at the end of the day, I don't think he's going to be ready to fight somebody like Lester Martinez. Lester Martinez, honestly, might just be the best fighter that Emmanuel Lim has ever faced in his career. Tough take, but it may be true. This is going to be an absolutely fantastic fight. I think it's set up for Lester Martinez to win, become the interim champion, and we're going to see what happens with Christian Buckley. Of course, my prediction is Canelo Alvarez, September 12th, or whatever the date is, for the Mexico versus the world. That, I think Canelo Alvarez is going to be fighting Christian Buckley. If Canelo Alvarez beats him, you know, and decides to choose a voluntary route, and someday the WBC decides to mandate the interim champion versus the champion, in which will be Lester Martinez, at least that's what we're thinking right now, then a lot of options in the future. But let me know what you guys think, my friends. And that's not it. Jaoquin Buckley, once again, UFC welterweight contender. I believe he's ranked number 9 in the rankings right now, behind guys like Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, JDM, Carlos Prates, Michael Morales, Sean Brady, Ian Gary. A guy who just absolutely runs his mouth all the time. Just recently called out Shakur Stevenson to the street fight. Said he'd absolutely kill him. Calls out Terence Bud Crawford, former, or not former, 3-time undisputed world champion in 4 different weight divisions. You're talking about an undisputed champion in the junior welterweight division, the welterweight division, and also the super middleweight division. Not a 2-time, undisputed champion in the same weight class. No, a 3-time undisputed world champion in 3 different weight classes, right? A guy who just recently retired after fighting Canelo Alvarez and taking his titles. Jaoquin Buckley says on March 7th, I'm heading to Las Vegas. Let's spar.
Bud talking crazy, acting like he gonna, do something, in the streets, man. He gonna keep a switch. He gonna need a switch if he playing with me. We ain't finna do this in the streets. That was some good, deflection, He didn't really want to answer what I really asked him, and that's to get that work. We can keep it out of the streets, we ain't gonna be playing like that. Don't nobody make it back home. Let's get in the ring. Let's spar. You already know you be out in Vegas. A lot of this is an open invitation to Bud Crawford. Let's do it at the Apex. I'm gonna try to make my way down to Vegas March 7th.
Do you think, Jaoquin Buckley, do you think in a boxing ring, even if the welterweight division in the UFC is 170 pounds, do you think, and Terence Bud Crawford, yeah, he just fought at 168. Actually, that makes sense. Sometimes I still look at Terence Bud Crawford like he's 147, 154 pounder. No, his last fight, he just fought Canelo at 170, basically. So, when you look at the frame, though, Jaoquin Buckley looks like a goddamn monster. A monster compared to Terence Bud Crawford. But in a boxing ring, I guarantee you, Jaoquin Buckley, you will not beat Terence Bud Crawford. Give it, 12 rounds sparring. By the end of 3, 4, 5, Jaoquin Buckley will be out of there. Maybe in the first round. But Terence Bud Crawford would absolutely kill this guy in a boxing ring. Let me know what you guys think, man. This is the MMA Boxing Addict channel reporting to you the breaking news.